The First Amendment contains the most essential rights to American citizens, one of the most important of them being the freedom of speech. It extends to all inhabitants, including us, high school students. According to the Center of Public Education, it is important to remember that speech, as defined by the Constitution, is not just words. It also includes nonverbal and symbolic expression. This may include clothing, off-campus websites, dance performances, and even art. In today's climate, questions about freedom of speech are amplified. The nation is polarized by matters of war and peace, and in-your-face moral issues provoke car discussions that make parents cringe.
So, Gino, what does freedom of speech mean to you?
It means that I get to express myself in whatever way I see fit.
Well, free speech is important to me because I feel every individual should have the right to express themselves and what they believe inside our society, and no one really deserves to be censored.
I feel like most of the time I have a lot of things in my mind that I really gotta say and let people know. And I feel that it's very important for people to know my opinions because that's what the United States is pretty much based around.
Freedom of speech is a core value of American democracy. And my favorite opinion, Supreme Court opinion, I think it was in Tinker versus Des Moines, where they said students do not shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse gate. So students have the right to free speech in the public schools, with, of course, a few caveats.
I definitely feel there's a line between free speech and hate speech, but that line is subjective. So I feel like there should be regulation, but it's tricky because there's no exact real way to determine when you cross the line or not. So I'm sort of torn on the question. I do believe there should be some regulation, but I don't feel like there should be a lot of it.
In high school, there are reasons why each student's right to freedom of speech is regulated. It is because we want high school to be a safe environment. If there were no regulations concerning freedom of speech, then high school wouldn't be as safe as it is for some students. We don't want students expressing themselves while at the same time infringing on another student's safety. The Superintendent of Napa County, Dr. Nemko, explains why these regulations are essential.
No one should have the right to harass another student. Other than that, if you have opinions about things in the world, we want to hear your opinions. We should want to hear your opinions. And sometimes people expressing their free speech rights, while it may be painful for some of us to listen to, you end up with a better outcome.
Sometimes even inside America, where we value free speech, I still feel like there's times where there's a lot of pressure to not really be open and not say what you feel.
We are so fortunate to live in a country where we take free speech for granted. And because most of us don't travel widely internationally, we forget. We take it for granted. We want more. And we don't often reflect on how fortunate we are.
Our Constitution says we must take this risk. And our history says that it is this sort of hazardous freedom, this kind of openness, that is the basis of our national strength and of the independence and vigor of Americans who grow up and live in this relatively permissive, often disputatious society. Freedom to speak amongst our students has been a clearly established right for many, many, many decades. It affects a broad range of issues, from students fighting against racial desegregation, or segregation rather, students protesting the Vietnam War, or even today students protesting military actions in other parts of the globe.
The United States Supreme Court's considerations to free speech in schools are as follows. 1. The extent to which the student's speech in question poses a substantial threat of disruption. 2. Whether the speech is offensive to prevailing community standards, i.e. vulgar, lewd, indecent, and/or racist. The Supreme Court claims that it is a special responsibility of the schools to teach moral values, boundaries, and socially acceptable behavior.
Well, look at all the flaws in America. Well, of course there are flaws. It's run by people, and we're all flawed. And it's hard to be perfect. And I don't even know what perfect is. So I'm very grateful that I get to live here, and that I can, if I want to, say whatever I want to about the police or whoever, or the president, and nobody's going to lock me up. They can't do that. I can write an editorial. I can write to the president. As long as I don't threaten him, I can give him my opinion. And even if he doesn't agree with me, even if he hates my opinion, I can still do that. I'm fine. Lucky yes.